Here we have a Vibro champ from September 1971, September 13th, 1971. It's just about 6-7 months younger than I am. Mr. J. Castillo is here, and it needs the things all such Vibro champs need. It needs a grounded power cable. Let me show you the plug end. Because with these old cables, you can plug it into an outlet either way. And if you guess wrong and the death cap is failing, you can have full 120 volts potential between the chassis and ground, which is how bad things happen. This one's not leaking yet. Worst case, it has 3 volts AC potential, but it's going to get replaced anyway, at which point the death cap is going to come out, and it's going to be wired to modern safety codes so that the hot will be fused, then the hot will be switched, and the neutral will just connect to the other primary. Time for the old filter cap to be changed out. Time for the other electrolytic caps to be changed out. I could tell from initial testing that there was some dirt on the intensity pot, just some scratchiness, so all the pots get a cleaning, and the entire chassis has got what we lovingly call white rust, which is zinc oxide, just a natural byproduct of how these chassis react to oxygen over the years. That all cleans up pretty easily without losing the ink stamp. So this should be pretty simple. I might go the extra mile and reorient some of these caps so that in theory you'd want the outer foil to be to the point of lowest impedance, but really in a Vibro champ it doesn't really matter, and that's not an issue. And then I'm going to check and make sure that the amp is biased correctly with modern wall voltages. Often this 470 ohm resistor needs to go up to 680 or 750. It does not fundamentally change the sound of the amp in any negative way. It just makes things run better. And there's some minor Tolex repair to do to the inside of the cabinet. The rear flaps pulled out when the chassis pulled out. It had never been pulled out, and the Tolex had kind of bonded to the metal of the chassis in yucky ways. So a little bit of glue there. It'll be good as new. I don't anticipate this to have any issues, so let me get started. Odds are the next thing you'll see will be the final amp, unless I run into anything interesting along the way. So time to get started. Well, lo and behold, here's something interesting. Across this cathode here, most Vibro champs have a single 10 microfarad bypass cap. This amp from the factory had 2 1 microfarads in parallel, so a value here of 2 is what the owner of this amp is used to hearing, and that's a fairly dramatic difference. I'm going to call him and see if he wants me to go with the standard 10, which I have, or wants me to order a 2 microfarad to keep this kind of unusual arrangement. These are factories, so who knows what happened at Fender that day. Maybe September 13th, 1971 was just a very special, toneful day. So I'll report back on that. All right, I spoke to the owner, and he's making the correct choice to have me replicate the original 2 microfarad cap bypass there, as opposed to the 10 found in others. I did not have that value. I've tempted a 4.7 microfarad, which will be close enough for testing all the other functions of the amp. And then once the new correct 2 microfarad, 2.2 microfarad arrives, I'll pop that in. The amp will be hopefully done. You can see here, let me if I get my pointer. I've got a grounded power cable. You can just barely see it here on the edge. And the ground wire is longer than the hot neutral. Hot is going to the inner connection on the fuse holder. It had a 2.5 amp fuse in here. Now it has the correct 1 amp fuse. Runs from there to the power switch, one of the primaries, and then the neutral is connected and heat strength to the other primaries. And that's just tucked away underneath here. That's fine. Got a new filter can cap, 2020-2020 rather than 2020-20. So I've got 40 microfarad on the screen node for reduced hum. Just a nice little thing you can do on these. You can also create a new first node before the before the primary on the output transformer node anyway, a 4-section cap gives you a lot of playroom with a old Vibro champ like this without stressing out the 5Y3 rectifier. This 470 ohm resistor is getting replaced with a 680 with 115 volts coming out of the wall. This thing is right at 14 watts, and the wall voltage in Memphis often gets up to 125, etc. And that would just be too much. So we're going to set it so that it doesn't exceed 14 watts, even if the wall voltage climbs. Let's see, cathode bypass cap here, cathode bypass cap here. All the zinc oxide has been cleaned off, which makes a nice difference. And the pots have been cleaned. And you can hear in the background my mom's in the other room watching television. She's a little bit hard of hearing, so the TV's up a bit. That's fine. I'll put this in the cabinet and see what it sounds like. They didn't spend a lot of money on these Vibro champs, and this little flap of Tolex was just stapled. And when the chassis came out, probably for the first time ever, it grabbed all the Tolex side that wasn't stapled and just ripped it. So I have glued these down. The staples are gone. And these are glued in place like you'd find if this were, say, a 65 example. And now the chassis should go in and out without catching on that loose flap of Tolex. You can see it's got the original special design speaker, Fender original special design. Little Alnico 8-inch. Seems to be just fine. All right, initial power up, sounding good. Because my mom is watching TV in the next room, she's a guest tonight, I will do the real playing test tomorrow, where you guys can really hear it. I might hear a little bit of a rattle, a little sympathetic buzzing. Let me show you what I'm going to check on that. In the process of removing the rear panel to access the speaker hardware, I realized I found out that one of the screws had gone in originally at a severe angle, and that screw's all messed up. And someone in the past had tried to remove that screw and chewed the head all up. So I'll re-drill that, but I want to make sure the speaker is tight. It is not. I meant to do this before I reinstalled the chassis, and I just forgot. It happens. And I also don't have the chassis clamped and bolted to the cabinet. All that hardware is in the back of the app still for now. So I'm not going to worry about that buzzy rattle that I heard quite yet. Though these speakers sometimes make it, sometimes they don't. We'll find out tomorrow.